Well, it appears Dicker did not eat his Wheaties.
Man, that was nightmare fuel.
I got too many tabs open in my mind after that game.
Hold up. It's the Chargers Squad. Everything Los Angeles Chargers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the City of Angels. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Chargers Squad Show, starting now.
Well, hello and welcome to the Locked On Chargers Squad Show on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel. Pete Fox covering sports in LA dating back to 2007. David Droegemeier, one half of the Locked On Daily Chargers podcast, and Kenjon Barner, 10 years in the league, 3 rings. Today's episode of the Locked On Chargers Squad Show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Well, this one started off terribly, ended terribly, and surprisingly, the Chargers had a shot. They had life late in the fourth quarter, but in my opinion, you can't play crappy for 3 quarters and expect to win a game like that against a very, very good team. So that's probably what I'm most frustrated with, other than the Tarheeb still phantom PI call, or wasn't PI, they called interference.
Illegal contact.
Illegal contact, yeah.
Freaking ridiculous. He's laying on his butt. How does he get the call? I don't know. And then, you know, the announcer, former referee, is like, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. They're not willing to come out.
Nothing to do with the play. Nothing at all.
Right. Yeah. Let them play is what I think. At worst, it should have been a no call. Yeah, that was just ridiculous. It was so far away from what happened. How do you call that? It's not like he was throwing the ball in that direction. It was ridiculous. So yeah, that's a tough one, and a lot of people in the chat are really upset about that one. David, we've done this show quite a few times. We've been on after some bad losses. You were here after the Jacksonville loss. I don't think I've seen you this disgruntled.
It's just frustrating because, like, the Chargers absolutely had every opportunity to win this game. They just made too many freaking mistakes. Like, you cannot, like, Arande Gadsden, you had such an unbelievable rookie season. But for you to drop that, to have a ball hit your hands in the red zone against that defense, where it was like pulling teeth all day long just to try to get first downs, just to try to get the ball down the field, and you have an opportunity to put points on the board and you let the ball hit you in the hands, you have to catch that ball. It has to be caught. You are a professional. Like, that was a massive swing in the football game. And even after that, they still had chances to win the game. That's why it's so frustrating, because this Texans team, yes, darn good defense, really, really good, made things really hard, but the Chargers figured it out a little bit later in the game, and they were making plays, and Justin Herbert was willing this team to try to win the game. But unfortunately, one too many mistakes came back and bit them.
Yeah, this was a game where you couldn't have that. You couldn't have the drop balls. You couldn't have the mental lapses that we had on defense early in the game. This was a team that only gives up 16 points a game, right? Yeah. So you allow this team to jump out to a 14-0 lead. You make it extremely difficult on yourself to make a comeback into the game, regardless of who you have at quarterback. And with that, like you said, you still had a shot at the end. But listen, you can only shoot yourselves in the foot one too many times before there's nothing that you can do about it. And there was just simply nothing that we could do about this from start to finish. It was ugly from start. It was ugly in the middle. It was ugly at the end. With so much at stake, right? Yeah, you got the playoffs locked in, right? You're a lock after Monday. But an opportunity to win this division, which you have not done in over a decade.
Almost 15 years.
You know what I'm saying? So much at stake. You would have expected this team to come out and play with their hair on fire, expected them to come out with a level of intensity that we just did not see.
One of the things I thought was strange, and I'm not surprised at all, because we see it frequently in LA, not just at SoFi. The fans are just sitting on their hands. This kind of thing would not happen in Buffalo or Denver. During the game, the announcers pointed it out. He said, you could hear a pin drop in that place. And
it's because the Texans defense was taking the air out of the stadium. The Chargers couldn't do anything.
But not only that, our offense, there was nothing for this fan base to get excited about. Yeah. Our defense was absolutely horrendous. Tony Jefferson early in the game on a blown coverage that they put on Elijah Molden, but clearly was not on Elijah. Tony Jefferson got locked in on either number 1 or number 2. When you have a zone coverage, why are your eyes on the man? Your eyes should be in a zone area. So Tony Jefferson, then you have Dante Jackson to start things off with a 70-something yard bomb over the top.
Yeah.
Another blown coverage where they're playing man, but you're expecting zone or help from somewhere that's not coming. So there was nothing for this fan base. There was nothing for that dome to be excited about early in this game. So I understand it. You have to give these fans something to cheer for. You go to the Buffalo Bills and those type teams, like that is a different sort of fan base, right? They're on fire from start to finish. Right. This has never been the Charger fan base to where it's like that. You know what I'm saying? For as long as I can remember. They gave this fan base nothing to cheer for. They gave them nothing to get excited about. Meanwhile, the Texans just repeatedly came out and just, like you said, sucked the energy out of the dome.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. At the same time, LA fans are,
finicky.
Notoriously flat. Yeah, right. You better entertain me, or I'm not going to give you.
Listen, we're bougie out here, okay?
Yeah, I don't know how Higgins got that wide open. You just explained it. I was mad about that. I was way more mad, because it did seem like, the DBs they had nobody over the top. The safeties were not in that play at all. It was kind of like, missed that one, like when you're playing golf and you hit one off the shank and it goes into the gunch, it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Right. And that comes like after a birdie or something. Yeah. But getting burned deep is one time is fine. It's not fine, but it was okay because it was so early in the game. It's not going to cost you the game. It can't happen again. And Elijah Molden was just beat. Like it was, I likened it to me and KB being in a foot race. That's what it felt like. The way that receiver ran past Molden, he was like, I can't catch him. He's way too fast.
That wasn't on Elijah. That was on Tony. Tony didn't. They were in cover 2, where you have a too high safety look. Tony set on a route rather than dropping into his zone. That's on Tony Jefferson. That route opened up in his zone. So where I don't know who was that ran the route. Was it boom?
The second
was it Jalen Noel? Yeah. Jalen Noel.
Yeah.
Where he caught that ball was Tony Jefferson's zone. Mm-hmm. That's T-Jeff. That's not on Elijah.
He was too far beaten at that point. There was no way for him to get back into it, is what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is that's not.
He wasn't where he was supposed to be. Essentially,
where that Elijah chasing that's not Elijah's zone. Elijah has nothing. Elijah was trying to make a play where it wasn't supposed to be his play to be made. Elijah had the right-hand side of the field. Tony Jefferson was supposed to have that. Where that ball was caught was exactly where T-Jeff should have been.
Yeah. All that being said, down 14 early and went into the third quarter down 7, or not into the third quarter, but it was 17-10 there after the break. And, the Chargers were hanging around. But Dicker misses a field goal right before the half. He misses an extra point. And I don't know if it's fair to say he cost us the game. I don't want to put that on him. There are so many other things that went wrong.
No, it wasn't just him.
He contributed. He contributed, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
we can't put that on him.
You could say, and I hate to say this, but he was due for a clunker. He's been so good, so accurate, so reliable and responsible that he was kind of due for one. So I guess the good news could be that at least he got it out of his system. And, maybe moving forward into the playoffs, I would assume he's going to be the Dicker that we're used to seeing. But that today was very, very, I looked away on both of them. I mean, because that's what we do with Dicker. We just don't even pay attention. Yeah. I was sitting there. We had some family over doing our Christmas today. And I was like, what happened? Like, it's not 14-6, it's 14-3. What the hell? He missed that. And then he missed the extra point. And that's just tough. So yeah, there's so many frustrating things about this game, but the thing that I thought we were kind of over was the lack of protection and the complete need for Justin Herbert to scramble his ass off almost every time. And that's what we saw today. I'm just like, the breakdowns in coverage were so frustrating. And you could see him on the sideline too.
Yeah.
All over his face. He had no energy when he was sitting on the bench, just kind of like, the frustration, without being mad at anybody, the frustration to me was clearly written across Justin Herbert's face as well.
Yeah. Well, he knew it was going to be a tough day. Like going in against this Houston Texans defense and those two pass rushers that they have, who both have over 11 sacks. Like, they're a load. And you have Bobby Hart, who's over on the left side, who hasn't played left tackle in 3 years, get absolutely smoked on a spin move and barely even touch the dude, where Justin Herbert gets just ran over. Like, that can't happen. And that just happened too often. They only sacked him 5 times. And if it wasn't for Justin Herbert's escapability, it probably would have been 10, to be quite honest, or more. So 5 sacks, 8 QB hits, over 20 pressures. They were in Justin Herbert's face all day. And if it wasn't for Justin Herbert's innate ability to move in the pocket and escape and get extra yards, it would have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. The running game coming into the start of this game was something that we felt that they were going to rely on. And they started running the ball a lot right out of the gate. Only 2 completions in the first quarter, which I thought was a little surprising when the Texans weren't allowing the Chargers really to run the ball. And that's another thing that we see from them frequently. That's frustrating. When the running is halted or stunted, they don't throw the ball. They just keep running the ball. And I feel like that's a problem. But the inability for them to create any sort of energy and momentum early in the game was probably the reason that they couldn't create it later in the game either. They came out flat. We've seen that before. That's a real problem that needs to be addressed. You can't come out flat against good teams. They've played well during this streak, but today they kind of reverted back to that flat sort of is it KB? Did it feel a little bit like overconfidence? Hey, everyone's, kind of backing us on our side, feeling like we're on a roll right now. This game is in our back pocket.
It could be a couple of things, right? I think the way the Houston Texans came out and scored back-to-back touchdowns kind of threw this team through a loop, kind of knocked them off their pivot, and we kind of lost track a little bit. You've seen that the defense gained traction as the game went on. They got back to being the defense that we've seen them be all season long. But at the same time, there was almost that kind of, in my opinion, you're going to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? So that same sort of intensity, desire, and will at the beginning, it just didn't look like it was there. So it could have been a number of things. Again, it could have been the way that the Houston Texans came out and completely dominated this first quarter of football, both offensively and defensively. Or it could have been, they're in the mentality of, hey, we're going to the playoffs. Oh, but wait, we're not about to get our behinds whooped. Let's shake back and put this game into perspective and try and get a win. I don't want to say that it was overconfidence. I just think we got punched in the mouth and didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to give them credit. They deserve it. They played well defensively. We're not, we shouldn't be surprised by that at all. They allow the fewest points in the league, 16, and that's what they gave the Chargers. Exactly. So that defense was intense today. But they did give the Chargers opportunities, and the Chargers gave themselves opportunities. And I think that's what people are most frustrated about. We're going to get into that a little bit as far as the interceptions and the way the defense kind of, dug them out of the hole and gave them an opportunity to win this game, which they couldn't do. 20-16, the Chargers fall, now 11-5, 6-3 at home. It's the Locked On Chargers Squad Show on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, where you can find David and Daniel Monday through Friday with the Locked On Daily Chargers podcast. Make sure you check that out as an everydayer. All right, today's episode of the Locked On Chargers Squad Show is brought to you by DoorDash. The season is heating up. By that, I mean the NBA season, because the NFL season is winding down as we head towards the playoffs. They are heating up. DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through, whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player. DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. With DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There are nights when your team stresses you out, or days, in this case, as Charger fans, let DoorDash become your post-game therapy. A little liquid therapy, I guess. Sometimes you just need dessert now. Sure, yeah, dessert. That's what we need. The tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever you need to get through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash, it's your bag all season long. Well, Chargers win the turnover battle in this 20-16 loss, 2-1 there. I felt like both of those were huge plays, as we've talked about recently for this Charger team. It seems like they get that turnover right when they need it. The problem, though, is they don't turn it into points all that often. They did turn this into a field goal, the first one. The Derwin James interception, it was on a tipped ball, but hey, it went our way, and that's what was needed at that point. Rich Eisen talked about it. They talked about the fact that the Chargers work on this stuff. They are kind of an interception machine, and that's a positive mental position to be in for them going into the playoffs, going into this final game against the Broncos, which doesn't really mean all that much. But the good news, when you look at what they do defensively when it comes to intercepting the ball, I think it's extremely positive, David. I feel like the fact that they have that identity on their defense is huge for them.
Yeah, it really is. It gives the offense a lot more opportunities when they're able to turn the ball over and give short fields to Justin Herbert and an offense that can't really pass protect as well. So getting him as many short fields as humanly possible is going to help the Chargers win football games, and it will help them win games in the playoffs for sure. I mean, I think I got to give the defense some credit. After a really, really bad start where it looked like it was going to be a blowout, they made adjustments. They started making plays. They started, really bottling up the running game and really making things difficult and making things confusing for C.J. Stroud. They did a really good job of that after the fact. It's just one too many defensive breakdowns that really allowed them to lose this football game. But they played good football for the majority.
Pete, this defense did not allow the Houston Texans to get inside the red zone. Like, their touchdowns came off of deep balls and field goals. So outside of those two early plays, the defense came to play. They just didn't have any help from the offensive side of the ball. Whether it was Herbert trying to will this offense to, get into scoring position and get down the field and put some points on the board, or guys dropping balls, they just didn't have any help. But this defense played ball outside of those two errant plays that you just cannot have.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's tough. I just hope that this is a kind of a wake-up call. I mean, I know that's a cheesy cliche, but when you get to the playoffs, that kind of lackadaisical start is just not good enough. I don't know how else to put it. Like, they did so many things today that were good, and they did more that were bad, and that is the biggest just ouch, kick in the pants that you come away with from this game. It's like they've got so much talent. We've seen what they're capable of doing, but they didn't have the want to today for whatever reason, other than late in the third and through a good portion of the fourth quarter. The defense played hard. The defense is what is going to propel this team if they're going to win, but they can't do it all by themselves. The offense has to do something. I do not believe it just because Jamari Sawyer was out. I feel like it was, maybe not having Kamani Vidal hurt them. I mean, he's been very reliable as well, but I feel like it was an energy thing more than anything. And, we've seen him bounce back after the Jacksonville thing. When you look at this one compared to the Jacksonville from an effort standpoint, David, how do you rank them?
Yeah, I mean, they're not close. In the Jacksonville Jaguars game, they didn't show up at all. They were on their bye week already. They were on vacation. They didn't show up. That was a horrendous performance. One that if I had to watch the film on that, I'd be crying because that type of performance is just something you can never put on tape. Like this was a lot closer, and despite all of the mistakes that the Chargers made in every single phase, whether it was offense with the interception in the red zone, whether it was the defense with the 2 big scores, or whether it was the special teams with the missed kicks, everybody has blame to share. But even with all of those mistakes, they had chances to win this football game. That's the biggest difference. Is in that Jacksonville game, they never had a chance. Not a chance, not at any point in the game. In this game, you still had hope all the way down to the end that if they just got that one stop, if they didn't get that stupid penalty at the end where they got the pressure and got the sack, was about to get the ball back, I don't know how you could feel like the Chargers weren't going to have a chance the way Justin Herbert was putting that cape on to at least go threaten to win the game. It just feels like they had that chance. So I think that's what's the most frustrating about this game is despite all the errors, they still had a chance.
Yeah. The red zone opportunities in the first half, 0 for 3, third downs, 2 for 8, 131 yards, 31 on the ground in the first half. I mean, it was just an anemic offensive performance in the first half, but things got going. Huge play to Kenjon Barner in the final 2 minutes, which kind of made us go, oh, wait, hold on a second. We're not dead yet. And then follow with a turnover, but Arande Gadsden.
That was brutal.
But then Molden answers back with another interception in 45 seconds. So that's another thing that I feel like amongst a lot of negativity, there's that positivity in crunch time. The final 2 minutes of the first half, we've seen them do big things there, or at least positive things. So they don't, they kind of wake up. It's just they don't wake up soon enough. And I think that's the frustrating part. One of the things I loved, KB, there was a nice play to Omarion Hampton for 17 yards where he was hanging back to block, got rocked pretty good, and then caught a pass and ran for 17. Which I was thinking of you. Like I'm sure KB liked that play.
And the kid is a dog. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna bring his pads with him. When you come to bring contact to that kid, you better get ready to feel it. There was a play on the sideline, I think, where the backer,
Al-Shire, I think.
Al-Shire came to lay that wood, boy, but he didn't realize that Omarion was a carpenter.
I mean, somebody was laying the wood, but it wasn't him. He got smacked.
Yeah. So that kid, you know what you're gonna get from Omarion Hampton with the ball in his hands. You know you're gonna get something electric. There was so many plays offensively for Omarion Hampton where he was one missed tackle away. There was so many just there was so many of those to where if he gets out of a tackle, he's going for 15, 20, maybe even a touchdown. Who knows with his explosion? But like I said, you know exactly what you're going to get from him each and every game, each and every down. He's going to bring his pass. He's going to bring the physicality. He's going to bring the effort. And he's going to bring the attitude that this offense needs.
Yeah, I was expecting a bigger game from him. I watched some Charger podcast this week because I missed the game last week, so I was trying to get caught up, and a lot of the talk was about the fact that this Charger running game has become so reliable for them now that Omarion is back. And the Chargers have a I think it's 10-1 when they touch the ball 25 times or more. We talk about that a lot during the week, David. Jim likes to see at least 25. Sometimes we think it should be more coming into, different defenses. One of the things, though, that continually frustrates me is that the attack is not as balanced as I think I would like it to be. I would like them to get the ball in the air a little bit more. I don't understand what the aversion to that is when you have guys like Kenjon Barner and Ladd McConkey with one catch again. It's just one catch on 6 targets. No, one catch on 2 targets. You're only throwing the ball to McConkey twice. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So Keenan Allen, 1 catch on 3 targets. He did drop a big one early in the game, but they're going to throw the ball to Arande Gadsden, who's dropping him like crazy 6 times. So that's a frustrating thing to me from a game plan. Yeah,
they didn't have enough quick answers. Like that was the thing I recognized just right away. Is just too many like longer developing plays against a defense that is coming after the quarterback to rip his head off. Like, and they're trying to be exotic. They're trying, and they don't even really have to be, just because they have some real dogs over there that can really hunt. They didn't have enough quick answers. I don't know where the quick passing game was. It was non-existent. Like there's never enough screens. It's just not enough getting the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands quickly, which they did pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, two completely different level of defenses. And I need to make that abundantly clear that I'm fully aware of that. But you still have to orchestrate and build in those quicker answers to help protect your quarterback with an offensive line that is one of the worst in the league. That's just the facts.
KB, when you think about what's coming up next week and then the following week, right now, I guess the Chargers are at the 7 seed. They could face your former New England Patriots.
And that's going to be a dogfight.
I love that.
I don't know all of the scenarios as to where someone's saying, I pray we play the Steelers. I don't think that's going to happen because the Steelers get in. They're going to be the 8 seed. So I don't think there's any way for them to get a matchup against the Steelers. So it's probably the Patriots I guess we need to spend a little bit more time digging into what that looks like. But when you just from flying over that game real quick, from a 20,000 foot look at that, that's a younger team than this Charger team. Where does the experience level play in for that matchup, which would undoubtedly be on the road?
I think experience definitely comes into play when you have Herbert and you have a younger cat in Droegemeier. May is having a phenomenal year, a hell of a year at the quarterback spot out there for the New England Patriots. But not only that, you got Stephon Diggs. This will be a well-balanced matchup. You have a defense that is playing out of sight over there in New England. You have a defense that plays out of sight here for us. You have two quarterbacks who have placed their teams on their back and went and made plays. You have a group with the New England Patriots receivers, guys that can go out and make plays. And then you have a more complete group with the Chargers when you have Keenan Allen, you have Ladd, you have Quentin that can go out there and make plays. So this will be a well-balanced match. This will be a game that, in my opinion, really comes down to coaching. Who's going to get out coached, and it'll come down to who will make the least amount of mistakes with the football.
Yeah,
I like the chances better for the Chargers against the Patriots than I would against the Jacksonville team or against this, Houston Texans team that the Chargers just played. Two, very, very, very well coached defenses that are playing very, very well. With the Patriots, they don't have as much of a pass rush as those other two teams. And obviously any team that the Chargers can play that they don't have to protect as long or is going to be a much better thing for them, to be able to give a little bit extra time for Justin to make throws, because he's already shown you if you just give him a half second more, he can carve up pretty much anybody. It's just, those two teams make it really, really tough. So going up against the Patriots, I think it's a very evenly matched game, but I like the Chargers' chances better than going up against those other two.
So when you think about what happens next week, a lot of people in the chat are, suggesting a complete resting of the starters and just a complete checkout for the Chargers. I know that's one of those things that everyone has a different opinion on, what you do in a game that has relatively no meaning. Heading into the playoffs, do you rest and potentially lose momentum, or do you try to stay sharp? Everyone's got their own opinion on that. What do you guys think about that perspective, KB? Being a former Patriot, I know that Belichick never rested anybody.
Oh, ain't no rest. Ain't no rest with Belichick. You're going straight into it. No, but when you talk about losing momentum, there was no momentum built on today. If you come out of this game, you have a win, then you start talking about, going into the next game and will that cause us to lose momentum? There's none here. I don't think a loss has any major implications. I think we are where we are. I think that if you have an opportunity to get healthier, then you do that. You have to figure out a way to keep these guys in tune, though. Like, practice can't just be a bye week. It can't just be, no, it's okay, listen, we're going to work hard through the week. My starters, you're resting come game time. Everybody else is going to play, but the starters are getting the rest. But you have to keep them in tune. You have to keep them football minded and out there competing. You have to keep contact readily available. And obviously you're not taking guys down to the ground, but you got to keep them pads working so you don't lose a step come that wild card weekend. So I'm for rest and just rest on game day, not through the week.
I'd like to remind everybody and put a call back to Brandon Staley's Chargers making it to the playoffs, and they decided to play Mike Williams in a meaningless game, and he broke his back and missed that playoff game, which Mike was going crazy that season. He was, doing what he does, going up and getting the football, making big plays left and right, and he wasn't available because he played and got hurt in a game that means nothing. I'm all for if there's no if there's no ground, no change the Chargers can make, there's no reason to put your guys out there in harm's way to get hurt in front of a playoff run where you really want to get that monkey off Justin's back. Like, you really want to get him back and get him in that playoff victory situation, because man, there's a lot of haters out there. There's a lot of people that are very vocal about the fact that regardless of what he does in his, illustrious regular season career, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing because he hasn't won in the playoffs. That's an opinion a lot of people share, regardless of how undoubtedly talented that Justin Herbert is. He has to get that win in the playoffs. And so for me, you have to make sure you do everything you can to make sure everybody is healthy and ready to go accomplish that mission.
I want to talk more about that and what the last two playoff seasons for the Chargers mean to this year, because they have been, the last 2 years in the playoffs have been tough for this Charger team. So let's get into that a little bit more after the break. It's the Locked On Chargers Squad Show on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. All right, today's episode of the Locked On Chargers Squad Show brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. That holds true for football and baseball. It's great to watch on TV. It's great to listen on the radio, old school style, but nothing is better than being there. It is a completely different energy. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. This is where Game Time comes in helpful and is very handy and effective. The Game Time app gives the fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without guesswork. They even have this cool thing, view from the seats, where you can click on the ticket and it'll show you what you're going to see as to the 50-yard line or the goal post or home plate, or if it's a concert, the stage, because sometimes moving over a section or back a section can save you a lot of money and it doesn't really affect your view all that much. They also have zone deals that help unlock great seats at even better value. And sometimes the longer you wait closer to the start of your event, the more money you will save. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On NBA. That's LOCKEDO on NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. All right. Well, today did not go the way that Charger fans hoped or wanted. There was some signs of life. We can hope that turns into a wake-up call for them. 20-16 today. They played poorly for about 2.5, 3 quarters, and then showed some life in the fourth. Got a bad call, and Dicker missed a kick. So everyone wants to, in the chat, everyone wants to point fingers and blame. So it's Dicker and Arande Gadsden as to the reason they lost this game. Sure, those guys were a part of it, but there was a lot of other things going on that did not look good for the Chargers. And hopefully those are the kind of things that will be cleaned up when you get to the playoffs, that they come in with a different attitude, a different energy. And how much, KB, I have a question. Being a guy that's been in the playoffs a lot, 3 rings, how hard do you have to work to get that energy up in the playoffs? Isn't it just inherent? Isn't it just there because it's the playoffs?
It's there. If you got to work to muster up some energy for a playoff game, something wrong, then you need to check the sport that you're playing. Yeah. Listen, it's all on the line. Nothing else matters. Nothing before matters. Nothing after matters. The only thing that matters is right there in that moment. And you have an opportunity to go out and do something great. All you have to do is get hot at the right time, catch a streak, and you're on your way to a Super Bowl. You have an opportunity that not many teams get. Not many players make it to the playoffs throughout their career. So the energy, the excitement is already there because listen, I'm 2-3 games away from getting to a Super Bowl. All we have to do is come out and play our best brand of football, and we can get there. Because at this point in time, it really becomes any given Sunday. You don't have to be the best team. You don't have to be the number one seed. You just have to be the best team on that day. So the energy's there.
David, I got a question for you. You're obviously very familiar with Phillip Rivers, not as a Colt, but as a Charger. I was thinking about him today, watching this game as Justin Herbert is sitting on the sideline, just sitting there like, a wet piece of lettuce, or a piece of lettuce that's been on a sandwich for 3 days. And I was thinking about, is that how Phillip Rivers would handle this? One of our guys in the comments, it's filled with cussing words, so I can't put it up on the thing, but he's calling us delusional because the defense is ass, et cetera, and that Herbert needs to speak up and call out his teammates and rally them and get in their face and kind of challenge them in the middle of a game like this. Is that fair at all? Because that's what Phillip Rivers would have done. Justin Herbert maybe just isn't that guy. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen just a touch more energy, a touch more kind of, hey, he's the leader. Let's rally the troops and let's get out there and win this freaking game.
Phillip Rivers is a one-of-a-kind personality, though, and he was always like that from the very beginning. He's always been very demonstrative, very loud, very much a guy who's going to be in your face and he's going to talk trash. But that's who he was, and always who he was from the very beginning. Justin Herbert's not that guy. He's more of I'm going to go out there and show you. I'm going to go out there and prove it to you on the field, not with my words. He's not a guy that likes the camera. He doesn't like the media part of the game. He wants to show you how good he is with his ability. Yeah. The vocal leader is Derwin James. That's the guy who's going to get everybody riled up, get everybody fired up, get in someone's face, challenge them. That's the type of leader who does that for this team. And Justin Herbert's just not that type. There's a lot of ways to lead. Justin chooses to lead by example.
Yeah.
Can a defensive guy call out the offense, KB?
No. No,
who's going to call it out? Who's going to get because that's a big problem. Somebody's got to wake this offense up. Is it Keenan Allen?
In my opinion, it would have to be. It would have to be K. That's who it would have to be because he is the vet. He's the elder statesman on this offense. Even with Herbert being there, it's still Keenan Allen, right? Herbert is your quarterback, obviously, so you immediately go to him being the leader. But when you look at who's been there, it's been Keenan Allen. And so if there's anybody that I could see doing that, it would be Keenan. Or even that's not really Keenan's personality. Yeah. And so that was going to, as David was sitting here talking, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, we know who it is on defense. Who is it offensively that lights a fire up under these guys behind besides the coaches? It has to be there has to be some player. And you would love for it to be Herbert, but this has never been Herbert. We're expecting something of him that he has never given us. That's not who he is.
And who has the pedigree on that offensive side to be able to step up and have that cachet to be able to be that type of vocal leader? Correct me if I'm wrong, Kenyon, but you have to, if you're going to be that type of guy, you have to have proved it and been able to back it up and show it. And there's not a lot of other guys that have been able to do that on the Chargers offense besides Justin, besides Keenan Allen. But, Keenan Allen's, like you said, he's not really that type of dude. Justin Herbert's gotten a little bit more of that. And, we don't see all of that, but it's just not who he is at the end of the day.
No.
So when you look back over the last couple of years, last year against the Texans, that game was over before it started. I think the Houston Texans just punched the Chargers in the mouth last year in the playoffs. That was one of the more frustrating games to watch because the Chargers just got out physicaled in almost every aspect of that game. But when you go back to the Jacksonville game, that was a mental breakdown to blow that huge of a lead. So when you think about this team going into the playoffs, how much of either one of those games weighs on them, or has that page been turned and it's been burned and we're not paying attention to it anymore, David?
I mean, it's definitely for Justin, like I said, Justin Herbert's had to hear it for the last 6 years that he hasn't been able to get a playoff win.
Do you think that's unfair?
No, it's not unfair because unfortunately with the quarterbacks, they get paid the most money and, it's a team game, right? So, I mean, I don't think it's completely fair, but it is what it is. The quarterbacks get paid the most. They're the most important players on the field. It's a team game for sure. You win and lose as a team, but the blame, credit it all goes on the quarterback's shoulders, good or bad.
When it comes to these, you absolutely turn the page. But if I am Justin Herbert, I had 4 interceptions in my last playoff appearance, right? If I am Lad McConkey, I had almost a 200-yard game in my last playoff appearance. And so if I'm using these last games as anything, it's a motivation factor.
Yeah.
That's it. We're not playing the Texans, so there's no need to go back and watch and see what we didn't do. Or maybe if you are Herbert, maybe there's things that you can go back and look at and say, okay, I didn't do this or I did do that, so maybe this is something but every game is different. Every team is different. Every year is a different year. And so the only thing that I would even consider, again, looking back at these games for is just motivation to see, damn, I played absolutely terrible, or I played great, and take myself back to that week of preparation. If I'm Lad, what did I do that week that was different? You know what I'm saying? To get ready for the playoffs. If I am Herbert, how can I be better than that? But there's nothing to go back and watch from those games.
Yeah, I just think it's like a chip on their shoulder. Johnny has a lengthy, interesting comment here, just to kind of look at the other side. I get the fans are frustrated, and I get that we're frustrated too. But, you know, he's calling us eternal optimists. It's good. You should be. Failure after failure, man. Accept it. This team is not going anywhere. They have proven this over and over. Herbert's a stats guy, not a winner, not a winner.
Okay.
It's hard to argue that, but at the same time, you know, it is a fact that, you know, I don't look at what happens and base my opinion for the next game on just this game. Like, I'm not a prisoner of the moment that says, hey, the Chargers lost this game and they probably could have won it. They should have won it. They had a bad call go against them. They had some drop balls. They made some mistakes that they don't normally make. So I'm not going to say, well, because they always lose tough games, that they're never going to win a game that's, you know, important. So I feel like you can go back and look at their entire season, or more specifically, this nice run that they've been on, beating good teams. All of those games mattered. So I feel like there is a real chance that they can go out and beat this Patriots team because of, if nothing else, I feel like Jim Harbaugh is a better coach. And the fact is that they have a more experienced team. And to a certain extent, yes, they've turned the page on those 2 playoff losses, but it's a chip on their shoulder. If we're talking about it, if everyone's aware of it, they have to be aware of it, that they don't want to go out again and lay another egg. So if that makes me an eternal optimist, then so be it. I don't mind being an eternal optimist. I'm not a complete homer, though. I don't think any of us are. We call it what it is. And what it is right now is, look, things are trending in the right direction. Back-to-back 11-win seasons. We cannot overlook that. That's a good team, right? There's plenty of teams out there that would love to have 11 wins and be in the playoffs. Look at the New Orleans Saints, Tennessee Titans. There's a lot of teams out there that are just garbage and have been for a while, that haven't seen the playoffs and would love to have gotten into the playoffs and lost the way the Chargers did. So I don't know that I'm an eternal optimist. I don't know that you guys are. I think we call it what it is. But the fact is there are a lot of things, in spite of an ugly performance today, pointing in their direction, in their favor, going into this playoff game, KB.
To that comment, did we question Peyton Manning like this and say he was just a stat guy before he won his first playoff game? He was 6 years into the league, if I'm remembering correctly, before he got his first playoff win.
Fair point, yeah.
And so we got to be careful when we're talking about who guys are. Oh, you're a stat guy. No, every guy out here that's playing this game of football at the NFL level wants to win and is trying to win. As it's been stated on this episode, is that this is a team game. It takes 11 guys doing their 1/11th to get to a victory in the NFL. This isn't college where you can get a guy that can go put the team on his back and get this. This is not that. So to say that Herbert is a stat guy, I think is an unfair assessment of who he is, because of how hard he goes out and how much he gives to this team and gives to this organization. Listen, a lot of guys don't ever make it to the playoffs. The playoffs are not an easy thing. It's not an easy accomplishment. It's hard to win in the NFL at any level, whether it's regular season, playoff, whatever it is, it's hard to win. So to say that he is a stat guy would insinuate that he only cares about his stats, right? And that he doesn't care about winning, when we know the complete opposite, based off of, we can look specifically at this season here and see the hell that Herbert has went through game in and game out. and continue to show up and show out and play, we can go to what he's currently dealing with right now, having surgery and playing that week, not a week later, not 2 weeks later. A couple days after having surgery, he's out there for this team. So he's not a stat guy. He's a guy that loves his team, who loves the game of football, who just hasn't been able to get it done in the playoffs. And we understand that players are judged, right, by the money games, the playoffs. That's where it all matters. That's where legacy is made. Herbert is young. He's young. He's still young in his career. So give the guy a chance, give this team a chance, and let's not start putting guys in a box and labeling them as something that they're not.
David, I look at this team right now and I go, look, they every time we think they're down, they seem to rally back. And that's another thing I feel is really positive. They do sort of, pay attention to what happened, right? They learn from it. And that's one of the things that changed about midway through this season for me. They had some nice wins over that was a dominant win over the Steelers there. And then they turned around and lost that ugly game to the Jags ahead of the bye week. And then they won 4 in a row, beat a good Eagles team and a Chiefs team that was, struggling to stay alive. So those were 2 big wins for them, and they did it in unconventional ways. And I feel like that's what this team has that is just something you can't bottle, right? It's this uncanny flexibility or bounce back ability to learn from a mistake, learn from a loss, and build on it and come back better, smarter, more experienced. And they figure out ways. And I think that as Matt Money Smith said, the play-by-play announcer, they love it when people think they're out, down and out. And when the Chargers are coming off a loss and when they're being counted out, that's when they bounce back.
Yeah, I think it's good coaching. They show both in game when they're able to make adjustments in game, like they did against the Cowboys, where it was a close game, getting close to half, and then they made some adjustments defensively, turned it on offensively, and that game turned into a blowout victory. And then in this game, they were down 2 scores right away after 2 really big, passing plays, which was very uncharacteristic. And then after that, they only allow 6 points the rest of the 3 quarters of the football game. So they have shown the ability to adjust, from week to week and in game, which you have to be able to do if you want to win games in the playoffs. You have to be able to make quick adjustments. You have to find the weaknesses of your opponents and try to exploit them to the max. And I feel like sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but they do try to figure that out. So I think it is a coaching staff that is experienced and agile, and they look to try to pivot when they find those pivot points in the game.
Yeah, and the halftime adjustments have been a big positive factor for them over the last few weeks, and they were again today. Down 14-0, and you lose 20-16 after a missed field goal from a guy who never misses field goals, and he missed an extra point. Right there, the game should have been tied, right? So shoulda, coulda, woulda. I get it, I understand, but the fact is that these are things that are just a bit abnormal for the Chargers, and there were some other things that weren't. The offensive line not giving Justin Herbert the amount of protection he needs or wants was not something we're foreign to watching, but they definitely have cleaned that up. Let's hope Jamari Sawyer is back by the time we head to did we ever think we'd be saying that? By the time we head to New England or Massachusetts there to watch that playoff game. Because I agree. I think next week doesn't matter. Let's not worry about it. Let's not try to win that game. Let's get healthy. Let's get rested up and get out there and kick some butt in week 1 of the playoffs. KB, we haven't talked special teams. You want any final thoughts that are certainly, we've talked about Dicker a lot, but as far as the kick return and the punt return game, I know you always like to chime in on that.
No, I was glad to see Ladd finally return something this week. I was glad to see him try and get loose, find a rhythm, because we need that, especially when your offense is struggling, right? And it could use any help that it could possibly get. You have to be a dangerous return unit, and Ladd is a dangerous returner. He's shown that he can do it, so I was very excited to see him catch the ball in the air, make some moves, make some guys miss, and try and make a play. It's there. Now you just my thing about a punt returner is this is the longest play in all of football. So you have to reward those guys that are in front of you, working their behinds off to make those plays. My thing as a returner, I wasn't going to fair catch. And I'm not saying that's what Lad needs to do, but in my mind, I'm like, these dudes are working 10 seconds before this ball. You know, it's a long play. So you have to get the guys in condition to say, this dude is returning the ball every time he gets. So let me work my tail off. Let me work my behind off into the last whistle so we can make a play. And so I think that's a place where Lad has to get to. Obviously, be safe, be smart, make the right decision to be smart with the football. But you have to condition your blockers to go to the end of the whistle, and you do that by returning the ball.
David, Denzel Perryman was out today. He'll be out next week, which means
crazy.
Don't get him started.
I mean, we feel the same. It's absolutely ridiculous.
What are we doing? What are we doing? We're suspending guys for hits?
Yeah.
Like
repeated violations of playing rules intended to protect the health and safety.
It was nothing that he did was penalized on the field. So what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And I love how the appointing officer who was overseeing his appeal was a wide receiver, Jordy Nelson. Like, what do you expect him to do?
Of course.
Obviously, he was going to uphold the suspension. Like, these guys are getting penalized for playing football. It's absolutely ridiculous. And for Denzel, he's a huge energy part of this defense, a physicality. He is a massive physicality edge for this, like an attitude player. Like Tier Tart's an attitude player for the defensive line. Derwin James is an attitude player for the back end. Denzel Perryman is an attitude, physical player and physical presence who has real stopping power. Like, that's a big miss, and he absolutely was missed out there on the field.
Yeah, you know, he could win this game single-handedly in New England. He's going to be so like a caged.
He's going to be amped up. Yeah,
exactly.
Like a Tasmanian devil.
So that'll be fun to watch when he gets back in there. I don't know if you saw this, KB. You were looking away. Abdullah says, Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Come on now.
That's funny. Well, that's a good place to wrap it up as we head towards the final week of the regular season. Meaningless game against the Denver Broncos, but we'll be here to break it down when it is over and get ready. We'll spend a little bit more time next week getting ready for the postseason, which more than likely, unless something weird happens, will be the New England Patriots on the road. And I agree with a lot of people in the chat are saying that the Chargers just seem to be better on the road. Might be a benefit for them to be playing away from SoFi, where the fans are very fickle, as we saw today. For Kenjon Barner, 10 years in the league, 3 rings, and David Droegemeier, one half of the Locked On Daily Chargers podcast. I am Pete Fox. We appreciate you guys watching and listening, and more than anything, we appreciate your comments. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll talk midweek, and go Chargers. Have a good one. Take care. All right, guys.